Bud, Canelo, done deal. Looks like the fight is signed. What's your thoughts on this fight, man?
Man, it's a great fight for boxing. I know people don't agree with it, but if Canelo fights one inkling of the wrong fight, he gonna lose. If he comes out and fights the right.
No, I'll be going for Bud. If he fight Canelo, I'll be going for him. I mean, I don't know if he gonna win or lose, but I definitely be going Crawford. I think if anybody can pull it off, he can pull it off. Yeah. He's chasing greatness, so why not?
Predictions are pouring in as Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford prepare to face off in September for the undisputed super middleweight titles. With Crawford moving up 3 weight classes, the boxing world is split on who will come out on top.
Canelo's a stronger guy, the bigger guy, but in the fight with a guy that moves around, and if Crawford uses his skills and his legs and his technique and just his ability.
Teddy Atlas recently weighed in on the matchup. Speaking to Slingo, he didn't just pick Crawford to win. He peeled back layers of Canelo's career with the kind of scrutiny few dare to apply. Atlas suggested that Canelo, for all his accomplishments, might not be the invincible force many fans have built him up to be. He drew on a quote from the great Marvin Hagler. "It's hard to get up and do road work at 5 in the morning when you've been sleeping in silk sheets. That alone speaks volumes." Atlas implied that Canelo's immense wealth and dominance may have dulled his edge.
Maybe he's a little overrated.
Terence Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez at 168 pounds.
Canelo's really good. Really good. But I think Crawford is special. I know he hasn't fought the resume everyone wants, but you have that or you don't have that ingredient. I think he has it. Canelo's really good. He's tremendous. But could he be a tiny bit overrated? The greatness is within Crawford. It's in his desire, it's in his mind, it's in his makeup, where he came from.
More than that, Atlas revisited some of Canelo's biggest fights and questioned the outcomes. According to him, Canelo didn't deserve the win in his first or second fight against Gennady Golovkin. He went even further back, pointing to the controversial Erislandy-Lara fight, which many believe Lara won. Of course, the Mayweather fight ended in Canelo's only official loss, but Atlas framed it as another example of Canelo being outboxed at the highest level. He wasn't dismissing Canelo's skills. He was careful to say that the Mexican champion is a hell of a fighter with a heck of a legacy, but in the same breath, he circled back to that haunting question. Was Canelo overrated?
A lot of people that say that Crawford can beat Canelo, no problem. I mean, I respect that, but I just think they're stupid. I mean, excuse my language. The size difference of a bigger man changes everything with one punch. And I can see the same thing. I mean, you saw Canelo Alvarez fighting Amir Khan. Now, look at this. Terence Crawford, more from...
It's not just Atlas making noise. Shannon Briggs, the bombastic former heavyweight champion known for his "Let's Go Champ" battle cry, is also betting on Crawford, and not just to win on points. Briggs is calling for a stoppage, something that would shake the foundations of boxing if it happened. For Briggs, it's not a cautious prediction. He's backing it with the kind of certainty usually reserved for foregone conclusions. He even said he might put money down, despite not being much of a betting man. Briggs is rarely this confident in a pick, but with Crawford, he sees a finisher, a knockout artist, a man stepping up to greatness rather than away from it.
Speaking of Canelo, did you catch his past performance and what did you think?
I always think that Canelo have a good performance, but the last one are not good. Don't look good. His opponent and him don't make an entertaining fight. So I don't know, man. I don't like it, the fight.
Last thing, since you fought Canelo, how much better has it gotten? And him heading...
Abel Sanchez, the veteran trainer behind Gennady Golovkin's rise, offered a contrasting opinion. With first-hand knowledge of how Canelo handles elite pressure, Sanchez spoke to KO Artist Sports about the importance of weight classes. His take was blunt. Crawford is pushing into territory where power, size, and durability carry a different meaning. Sanchez reminded everyone that Canelo has shared the ring with thunderous punchers in higher divisions and never looked rattled, aside from a temporary scare early in his career against Jose Cotto. Sanchez believes that despite Crawford's brilliance, the leap to super middleweight might simply be too much to overcome.
Canelo and Bud. Who you like in this fight?
Canelo.
Why? Because Bud had to move up 3 classes?
Yes. And in the history of boxing, I've never seen anybody move up 2 classes and be successful.
Well, Roy did.
I mean, but not in one jump, not in one leap.
Right, you're right.
It was here,
right.
Light, heavyweight, fight a few fights,
right.
Okay, heavyweight. We talking about he just fought 147, one fight ago.
Then there's Teofimo Lopez, the brash and talented WBO junior welterweight champion who's never short on confidence. For Lopez, picking Crawford isn't just about belief, it's about legacy positioning. If Crawford beats Canelo, Lopez wants a piece of that action too. He's already picturing himself fighting Crawford and winning, framing that hypothetical win as a 2-for-1. Beat Crawford, beat the man who beat Canelo. Lopez also took a jab at Canelo's camp, claiming they're not interested in fighting him. It's a bit of promotional self-interest, sure, but it adds another layer to the narrative. Younger fighters see Crawford as a potential gateway to greatness, not Canelo.
Crawford, Canelo, who you got? Crawford, Canelo? I still say Canelo.
I got Canelo too.
I still say Canelo. Ring IQ, I believe that Crawford has a bit more.
Yep.
However, it's just the size difference. I think that where Crawford is lacking is that he should try test the waters even with somebody at that weight class before facing Canelo. But hey, they say he's a dog. He's got shot in the head and drove to the hospital, so maybe that's just...
Stephen Breadman Edwards, a respected trainer and boxing mind, echoed the belief that Crawford could be the man to shock the world. He made a fundamental but often overlooked point: anyone can be hurt. He referenced greats like Evander Holyfield and Roberto Duran, both of whom had legendary chins, both of whom were still caught and hurt in fights. Canelo's chin is undoubtedly one of his greatest assets, but Edwards reminded fans that no chin is invincible. On any given night, under the right conditions, anyone can get clipped. And if Crawford is anything, he's a master of finding the right conditions. Precision, timing, and instincts. Crawford weaponizes all of them with surgical efficiency.
I'm going with Terence Crawford. You know, big weight jump, a dangerous fight, but somebody's got to prove to me that they can break Terence Crawford's will and that he can't figure it out against you. You know, it ain't no disrespect toward Canelo, but I've said this the last couple of years. I'm not betting against Terence Crawford against nobody right now. You got to show me the...
Crawford's layoff since his August 2024 win over Israel Madrimov doesn't worry Edwards either. He explained that Crawford is one of those rare fighters who simply doesn't look rusty after time away. Where most fighters need tune-ups or show signs of inactivity, Crawford returns like nothing happened. That defies common logic in boxing, where rhythm and sharpness often dull over long breaks. But Edwards sees Crawford as someone immune to that trend, a fighter with an internal clock that always ticks at the right moment.
You know, he's just moving, but his movement is good, to be honest.
Yeah. What do you do when there's a fighter that comes to not win but last? You've just heard, we can hear now, Canelo has won the fight. What do you do when someone comes to last the distance and not try and win?
What should do or what?
Yeah, how does Canelo avoid this? Because it happened, he feels, against Berlanga, and 90% of the...
Taken together, these predictions don't form a consensus. Instead, they reflect a unique split in how people view this fight. On one side, there's the belief that Canelo's physicality, experience at higher weights, and durability will be too much for Crawford to overcome. On the other, there's the sense that Crawford's versatility, IQ, and hunger will prove decisive. Each viewpoint highlights something essential about the matchup. Sanchez emphasizes natural weight advantages. Briggs and Atlas point to hunger and momentum. Lopez sees opportunity. Edwards zeroes in on the idea that even the most durable fighters can be undone with the right punch at the right time.
Manny, what do you think about Canelo versus Crawford? Crawford's moving up like 20 pounds. What do you think?
Good. Good for Canelo.
Good for Canelo?
The critical thread running through most of these takes is that Crawford is being viewed not as the underdog, but as the threat. That says something. Even though he's the smaller man and jumping 2 weight classes beyond his welterweight roots, many believe he's got the tools to unseat Canelo. That's not typical in boxing. Usually, when a fighter climbs that far up the scale, the talk is about survival or moral victories. Here, though, it's about conquest. Crawford isn't being cast as a David hoping to land a lucky stone. He's being cast as an apex predator invading a rival's territory with intent to dominate.
Me? Last question, Mr. Boozy. Canelo Alvarez, William Skull.
Right.
Canelo landed, I think that broke the record for the most punches, well, the least punches thrown and the least punches landed in a 12-round fight. I think Canelo landed 55 punches.
Right.
William Skull used a lot of movement. People were calling it running.
Same like a...
You told me that Terence Crawford and Canelo was a 50-50 fight. You told me Terence Crawford had a chance.
Right.
Me, I was leaning towards Canelo because of the size.
Right. Meanwhile, Canelo's performance against William Skull has triggered new doubts. The unanimous decision win was never in question, but the fire seemed missing. There was no urgency, no bite, no sense that he was out to prove something. That kind of demeanor is often read as the calm of a champion who's seen it all, but Atlas and others suggest it might be something else. Comfort, complacency, maybe even decline. Canelo's been a professional for nearly 2 decades. He's been rich for a long time. He's been the face of boxing, the pay-per-view draw, the A-side, the king of the cash split. At some point, that comfort can erode the killer instinct. Crawford, in contrast, seems like a man who's still fighting to prove something, to show he's the best, pound for pound, regardless of size.
With Crawford going up, I believe he can put a beating on anybody 154, 160.
But not 68.
Nah, Benavidez is...
Canelo. Yeah.
Oh, Canelo. I think he's a smart fighter. He doesn't rely on his power. Crawford ain't a fighter who just relies on his power. And then Canelo, you know, when he's fought Belenga, then fought Ryder, Munguia, it's even. I think it'd be a 50-50 fight if Crawford fought Canelo.
Kyone Davis, a 19-3 middleweight fighter who has sparred both Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford, offers a rare and valuable perspective on what fans might expect when the two meet in September. Davis has spent time in the ring with both men, and despite being impressed with Crawford's skill set and adaptability, he favors Canelo due to the sheer challenge of moving up in weight so drastically. Davis acknowledged Crawford's preparation and discipline, but made it clear that Canelo is a natural at super middleweight. This isn't just about strategy or technique, he suggested. It's also about physics and biology. Fighters can prepare all they want, but when entering a division where their opponents are naturally heavier and more accustomed to that weight, there is a margin of physicality that training can't fully erase. Davis described Canelo as someone who naturally sits really well at 168, suggesting that comfort and fluidity at the weight will play a huge role in the outcome of the fight. Crawford's approach and commitment aren't in question, but the challenge of climbing several weight classes is historic, and few fighters manage to defy that gap.
Crawford is going to fight Canelo because even if I have some doubts and misgivings about the size matchup, it is two action fighters who like to fight aggressively at times, not all the times, going against each other, and we'll see who can open the other person's tuna can, so to speak.
Teofimo Lopez, the reigning WBO super lightweight champion, has wavered in his predictions, but his comments nonetheless provide intriguing insight. Initially, in an interview with ES News, Lopez expressed the belief that Crawford would give Canelo problems early, but ultimately fade in the later rounds, allowing Canelo to finish strong and possibly stop him. Lopez's assessment stemmed from his familiarity with Canelo's ability to adapt during a fight, how the Mexican tactician tends to start cautiously, read his opponent's patterns, and then apply measured, punishing pressure as the fight wears on. However, Lopez later revised his prediction while speaking with Fight Hype. This time, he backed Crawford, not only as a matter of belief, but with an eye toward his own career. By hoping Crawford beats Canelo, Lopez sees a path where beating Crawford afterward would elevate his own standing. He framed it as a matter of strategy. If Crawford beats Canelo and Lopez beats Crawford, the legacy implications are massive. It's not the first time fighters have allowed their personal goals to color their predictions, and Lopez's flip-flop, though eyebrow-raising, reveals the kind of calculation fighters make when considering how narratives could develop.
Terence Crawford, Canelo.
Yeah, I believe Terence Crawford is going to be in top shape. and I believe he's good enough to outpoint Canelo. But I believe the power would be a challenge, if you will. So I'm gonna say Terence Crawford.
Bob Arum, the legendary top-ranked promoter, touched on the magnitude of a different fight entirely, but his remarks indirectly contextualize the level of competition Crawford is up against. Inoue versus Nakatani, a fight Arum praised as potentially the biggest in Japan's history, was discussed with reverence, but Arum noted that many in the boxing community consider it every bit as compelling as Canelo versus Crawford. This comparison says something about the respect Terence Crawford has earned. Despite stepping into a heavier weight class against one of the sport's biggest names, there's no consensus that it's a mismatch. Instead, it's viewed as an elite contest on the same level as other pound-for-pound showdowns around the world. Arum, who has promoted both Inoue and Crawford in different stretches of their careers, recognizes the gravity of what's at stake. Even if his comments weren't directly about Canelo versus Crawford, the parallel underscores the rarity of a fight that crosses divisions, continents, and expectations.
Fighter. The only thing I see that I favor Canelo is that, you know, is his weight.
Yeah.
And that he's more bigger. You know what I'm saying? That's the only thing. But as far as skill set wise, IQ, I feel like Crawford can match anybody and probably do way better. You know what I'm saying? But you know, Crawford is a legend, bro.
Yeah.
You know, and like I said, you can't.
Eddie Hearn, one of boxing's most visible promoters, has offered a rather somber perspective on Canelo's future. Speaking to The Ring, Hearn claimed he believes the Crawford fight could be the last of Canelo's storied career. Hearn admitted he has no inside information to support this belief, but watching Canelo's recent performance against William Skull led him to wonder how much more the 33-year-old has to give. The Mexican champion appeared to lack urgency, and although Skull was passive and difficult to look good against, Canelo's output and energy were noticeably down.
He would have done better than Skull, though.
1,000%, without a doubt. I would have beat Canelo, and this is what I've been saying. He's over the hill. Obviously, Crawford's a great fighter, Canelo's a great fighter, but I just think that this has more hype around it, and you know, we just saw them come off of some boring-ass fights, and they're probably just going to sit there and dance for 12 rounds.
Hearn speculated that the motivation, the hunger, and perhaps even the love for the grind of training camps may be waning. He framed the Crawford fight not as a pursuit of greatness, but as a decision born of financial reward. From Hearn's perspective, Canelo doesn't see much value in beating a naturally smaller man. While the payday is monumental, there's a sense that victory won't add much to his legacy. That kind of thinking could impact how the fight plays out. If one fighter is viewing it as an obstacle and the other sees it as destiny, the emotional edge may lie with Crawford.
Let me tell you what I think should be gone. The notion that Terence Bud Crawford should move up 3 weight classes, 21 pounds, to fight Canelo Alvarez. He's entirely too small. Jamel Charlo already proved that. Y'all remember that scene from Rocky?
David Benavidez, long considered a potential opponent for Canelo, broke down the fight with clear admiration for Crawford's skills, but stopped short of picking a definitive winner. Benavidez acknowledged that Crawford's ring IQ is on another level, and that his performance against elite opposition has proven that he is not just skilled, but relentless. Still, the former super middleweight champion emphasized the enormity of the physical challenge. Crawford, he said, looks slightly uncomfortable even at 154 pounds. Now, climbing even higher, he'll be facing someone whose strength and power are significantly greater.
The others say, like, no, that's 2 more weight classes. Like, once he gets touched by Canelo, it's going to be different.
I am concerned about him absorbing a Canelo punch, especially through the course of 12 rounds. We do know this about Canelo. He's going to slow down, you know, so I think if anything, Canelo would try to start fast and bang on him and break him down before he gets later.
Canelo's durability and ability to handle punches from hard hitters are established, and Benavidez pointed out that even if Crawford can outthink him, he'll still need to withstand Canelo's physicality. Benavidez added that Crawford has earned the right to be taken seriously in any matchup, given how he has dismantled elite opponents with surgical precision. Still, the fight remains a question mark because of how much weight gain alters the balance of strengths and weaknesses.
I feel I got the speed over Canelo. I got the reach over him. He might got the size, the power. I got the better skills, boxing skills.
Would it be more of a cat and mouse? The reality is Canelo does put people out, from Kirkland to Amir Khan to just
Don't dish.
Obviously,
I'm just saying, man.
No, but he's not Kovalev.
Kovalev
We have to
was
respect
older.
the power of
and he
Canelo.
Shakur Stevenson, one of the sport's brightest young stars, made his stance known in no uncertain terms. He believes Terence Crawford will cook Canelo Alvarez. Stevenson, a slick southpaw himself, tends to favor fighters who rely on skill, timing, and ring IQ over brute force. In Crawford, he sees the total package. Asked whether the weight difference would matter, Stevenson dismissed it. He suggested that while Benavidez is truly much bigger than Crawford and would pose a size problem, Canelo, despite being solidly built, is not much taller and doesn't possess the kind of length that would naturally dwarf Crawford. Stevenson argued that people are overstating the size gap and overlooking the fact that Canelo himself is not a towering super middleweight. For Stevenson, Crawford's versatility, discipline, and ability to make adjustments trump any physical disadvantages. His conviction was unshakable, a full-throated endorsement of the underdog.
Canelo Alvarez thinks you're not a 54-pounder. In other words, you say, nah, he's too small.
That's his take. There's a reason why Israel was so respectful in the fight. Anytime I let my hands go, he either grab me or move. For the bigger guy, you should have been walking me down. You should have been bullying me. Canelo can say, what do you say?
He just doesn't feel like you're a 54-pounder. He believes that you're a real weight class. And
Our real weight classes.
In addition to Stevenson's comments, he relayed an interesting conversation he had with Jaron Ennis's father, Bozy Ennis. According to Stevenson, Bozy believes Crawford could stop Canelo. While this may sound extreme given Canelo's well-known chin and durability, Stevenson said it's not out of the realm of possibility. If Canelo fights without the appropriate respect for Crawford's power, if he assumes, as some might, that Crawford can't carry his power up the weight classes, he could be surprised. Stevenson reminded listeners that anyone can be hurt on the right night. Fighters with historically strong chins like Holyfield and Duran have been dropped and even stopped.
There's no Triple G on Bud's resume. There's no Trout on Bud's resume. There's no Daniel Jacobs on Bud's resume. Canelo is the one that's fought the elite level opposition. It's Canelo that fought Laura. There is no Laura on Bud's resume. There is no Laura on Bud's resume. Bud has never faced a multiple division champ.
Crawford's knockout of Errol Spence was a reminder of just how dangerous he can be when he has a read on an opponent. If Canelo underestimates that danger or gets reckless, he might find himself on the receiving end of something sharp and decisive. Well, how do you see it ending? Share your thoughts below and subscribe for more updates.